put $240 on the table for me. Well, I know him because of my daughter.
Oh, it's people that you know.
It's people that, well, it doesn't have to, not everybody I know. Some of them come through. I had 3 college students.
I'd like to call the Maumelle City Council meeting to order. The first order of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance, and I've asked Councilmember Vapurzian to lead us in that tonight.
Let's pray. Father, we love you. Thank you for a beautiful day. Thank you for the sunshine, for the opportunity to be here this evening, for this council, for those who are willing to serve, for the audience members who want to come out and be involved in the community. Lord, thank you for our leadership here and for the opportunity to be a representative of who you are. And we can be passionate about many things, but if we don't know our purpose, it really doesn't matter what our passions are. And the only way we're going to know our purpose is to know you. And Father, I pray that we would take the time to do that. And so this evening we ask for your wisdom, for your words to fill our mouths, for your thoughts to fill our minds, and for our actions to be a representation of that. Thank you for our country, for our military men and women serving here and abroad. We pray for their safety. For our uniformed personnel, for their safety, we ask. And then we ask that you just be with us here tonight. Thank you, Father, for Jesus and all that he has made possible if we'll just receive what the opportunities are. Thank you again. We sure do thank you. You've been so good to us. Bless what we do here tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The next items we have on our agenda is special guests and announcements. And first we have Mr. Courtney Little, and he's going to be doing a presentation on a glass recycling pilot program. Mr. Little? If you would, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Ooh. My voice carries well, maybe too well. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and out in the crowd. My name is Courtney Little. I'm with Ace Glass. We now have a subsidiary company called Ace Glass Recycling, and we have looked at Maumelle and want to present tonight a pilot program that we'd like to start in Maumelle with the hopes of growing glass recycling across the entire state, starting in central Arkansas, because that's where the need is greatest right now. Our utilization of glass is really low, but so hopefully we're going to take this program and what we learn here with your fair citizens and then spread that out around all the areas surrounding Little Rock into Little Rock eventually, and hopefully go into a municipal type contract at some point in the future. So with that said, I think I'll jump right in, and I apologize for not, well, you did have it up, good. I didn't know if we were going to do that tonight or not. I said I'm always afraid of technology in my presentations, so somebody smarter than me is running it, so we're probably in good shape. All right, so the pilot program, we'll start with, next page, please. About Ace Glass, well, this is kind of the agenda. First, we're going to talk a little bit about my company, then about the Regional Recycling and Waste Reduction District, some facts about the recycling of glass, and then kind of show some details of what we propose to bring out to your community, and then have a little bit of time at the end for any questions and answers or comments that you have, because obviously we're trying to learn and be as good as we can at this. We're always open to input. All right, about Ace Glass Recycling, and I probably don't have everything in here because I'm more of a bullet point type person than reading off a script. Our mission statement is to improve glass collection and recycling in Arkansas. That's the whole state. We're starting here because we have the facilities and we have the ability to do that and the needs greatest, so we're starting here. But really the goal is in Arkansas initially, and then we're also talking on a national scope. I'm in the glass business, and we don't recycle enough in my industry in architectural glass, so I'm talking on a national scope to hopefully get this program figured out in Arkansas, go to Mississippi, Alabama, other southern states that don't have this opportunity. We're one of a few states that are really behind on this initiative, and other people don't have the will to want to chase it, and as I'm getting into this, I'm finding out why. But we think we've got a leg up and some new ideas that are going to change that a little bit. So we're hoping this is going to be the first step in a long legacy. Our brand promise is to improve recycling awareness, education, and collection. As part of the things we've been talking to keep Arkansas beautiful, keep America beautiful, and the regional recycling folks that there's just not enough money in education. by doing a program like this, we can actually provide that and help the citizens understand. Most people in Central Arkansas, or in Little Rock specifically, don't know that the glass that goes in their recycling bin actually ruins the stream. In Maumelle, y'all don't have it in your single stream for that reason, because you collect it separately. Y'all are one step ahead of what we're doing, but you're not getting it collected here. You have to do it voluntarily at a drop-off site. So we're going to try to improve that. And then our tagline is following kind of the national standard, which is reduce, reuse, and recycle. And you'll see how we're doing that in several ways throughout our process. All right, so a little bit of background about Ace Glass. My parents started in 1986. I grew up in the glass business, started out breaking pallets and doing all the jobs that nobody else wanted to do. My dad said, if you get upset with me for any reason, take it out on him. And so they did. But the same people that I worked for, 30-something years ago, now have stuck around and worked for me. And I thought that's kind of a neat legacy that that we had a good enough relationship, and that I worked hard enough as a kid that they said, well, he can't mess it up too bad. So they've stuck around, and we have become now one of the top 50 glass companies in the United States. We employ close to 100 people, and seasonal close to 150. So we've got an operation in Little Rock and one in Lowell. But a long legacy of trying to do the right thing. We do things on the golden rule, do the right thing by other people, not just for our interest. And so we're going to carry that over into our recycling process, that we saw a need in the community and thought, well, we've got an opportunity to fix that, jump in and fix it. Don't just stand back and say, hey, that's a problem. All right, the regional recycling. Sorry, I don't have my notes. I'll just read off theirs. That is a district of 18 regional solid waste management districts. I believe the mayor's on their board, and so it's a communication deal. They've got a budget for education. They do collection sites. They do a lot of stuff throughout our region. And originally, when we were talking about this a year ago, they were one of the first groups that came to us and said, if you want to get into that, we want to help. That's a huge need. That's one of the two key items that we're kind of chasing, and we've been looking for a solution. So it just kind of the things met. We had a desire to fix something, and they had a need that needed to be fixed. And so they've been very helpful to us on marketing and how to present this, mostly to citizens, the education, because that's going to be the big hurdle starting out, and then from here on out until we get a little bit of traction on this. All right. So why recycle glass? We're going to skip 2 there. Thank you, ma'am. All right. If you look at glass, is unique because it's infinitely recyclable. Cans, paper, plastic, things like that, they degrade over time. You get them 2 or 3 cycles. They even label the plastic, about the 3rd cycle, it's got to go somewhere. They have to take it back down to petroleum or change it to a different product. Glass isn't that way. You can melt it over and over and over again. You can crush it down and turn it into aggregate. It never goes away. It's a great product. It's very heavy though, so it goes in our landfills. Not only could it be recycled, but it's also putting a lot of weight in, and it's very dense. It doesn't ever decompose. Recycling glass reduces pollution and extends the life of local landfills. Every ton that you pull out goes right back into the stream. It's not a part of it. If you take a ton out, you get a ton of, that's an exact removal, and part of that doesn't come back as waste again. It just goes away. Recycled glass can be substituted for 95% of raw materials in a lot of products. Part of that's in architectural glass. Like I said, we intend to move to do that, where we take the insulated units when they pull them out of your house to crush those down, pull the bands out, and put the glass back in the stream. And I'm working on the national float glass guys to take that back, because they realize we're not recycling well. Recycling creates jobs. They say they estimate that the recycling glass creates 10 times more jobs than trashing it. Specifically to our program, once this is grown to full grown, where it's going to be 300 plus jobs just on the recycling side, on the collection side. We also intend to process it, and then to also build we're working on 3 different products that would create jobs to actually make a product out of this that would be an Arkansas-made product. So it would bring not only jobs to Arkansas, but also brings revenue for state taxes. And then we'll also we're going to contribute part of that profit back to the collection process to get that down, so we can continue to kind of roll on ourselves to get utilization up to hopefully a national leading number, and I'm tired of being the bottom 10 of every list. We'd like to be in the top 10 of something, and that'll hopefully allow the governor to go out and draw more jobs to Arkansas. So we think it's kind of a win-win thing. And along that is it attracts new businesses. If you look at the Amazons and the Googles and even other smaller startup companies, they want to go to a progressive state that's thinking ahead, doing things. And one of the things they will know is what's happening with your recycling. What are you doing? Sustainability. And we think this fits well into the message of Arkansas is a good place to be. Arkansas is a good place to come do business, and that's also good for our communities too. So why did we select Maumelle? We looked at the demographics of Maumelle, and we thought it was a good place to start a statewide program because it was representative of a lot of the communities around Little Rock. You have a great an upscale citizenry that gets things, that is active. I mean, looking at the number of people here tonight, it's great that everybody participates in the community. You have a lot of residents that already do voluntary drop-off, and I've talked to several more who've said, I really like that drop-off thing, but I'd consider doing curbside if it was offered. That'll be a hit and miss and getting the price point right, but making that easier for people. And there are some people who physically cannot get the buckets up and into their car and doing those kind of things, so that might help them too. And also, you'll have curbside pickup now, so you're used to recycling, just glass is not allowed. So having one extra bin out at the curb, we think, and we've seen in other studies in our cities that the connection is more natural for the citizens. So, and we're also hoping that doing it right here and learning some of those things with the feedback, and the mayor and other people we've met have already given us good feedback on what if and how about this and how does that look and how are you going to present that. And that's all constructive feedback for us that help. Like I said, I'm always trying to do the right thing, so I need that feedback. It's been good. Okay, the logistics of the pilot program. So, did we go two? Maybe I skipped one here in my head. Yep, sorry, I skipped one. See, I told you were smarter than me. I'm going to figure this out. All right, so we've got basically, I had just got a picture of today. We've got a heavy-duty, it was going to be a pickup truck, but it's a cab over. It's a smaller truck, gas burning, doesn't require CDL, doesn't hit the weight limits. We did that for a couple reasons. One, it's cheaper to run, a lot cheaper than the big, trash trucks you see. But second, we're trying to pick up those entry-level people in a business, and CDLs is a whole level of a barrier to entry for employment. So we're going to try to catch some people and give them an opportunity to get moving and do some things. And 2.1% effective unemployment right now, that's a tough crowd, but there's still a number of people out there who can't find jobs, can't get that first leg. So we've been partnered with several programs and plan to utilize that. This allows us the opportunity to be a good employer and maybe a stepping stone, and maybe they'll stay with us forever. Maybe they're a stepping stone to getting back to life, whatever they're doing. So it kind of served two purposes for us. The commercial truck is a larger truck. I think it's got an 18-foot bed on it, and we're going to put a Tommy lift on the back, and I'll show you, you may have seen them already, or we'll show everybody in a minute. We took old recycled liquid totes, is what they call them, 275-gallon totes, and we're repurposing those to be recycle bins. I've got, we do our own composite panel for architectural for buildings, and so my guys designed a cover for this, and it makes it look kind of like a lantern. So it's attractive, but that way on this deal we've got a powered forklift or fork truck that we can roll up onto the Tommy lift to put in the back of the bed. Real simple process that one or two guys can do with and get into small places behind restaurants, things like that, where normally putting another dumpster is either not an option or it's harder for a restaurant owner to take up more space. The pickup days for the residential, we intend to do it on your trash days, but I think y'all do recycling every week. We're going to do every other week just because the amount of volume, we estimate about every 2 weeks. The average person probably 10 pounds, and that's if Mr. Jones has 20 pounds of bottles of bottled juice, and Mrs. Smith, his neighbor, doesn't drink anything but tap water. So we think that'll average out about every 2 weeks to 10 pounds. If that's like I said, if that becomes where we need to do more, obviously we will, and we'll figure that out. But we've just running off of national estimates. We think that's so that way the citizens every other week will put out, the extra bin with theirs, and if they don't, they can call us, and we'll have phone numbers and website and all that stuff. We'll be very communicative and helpful. What we set up the residential cost, and this was kind of based on national numbers, was a $10 setup fee, and then $10 a month, and then we've given a discount. If you pay a year ahead, you get a 20% discount roughly for going ahead and doing that. That way you don't have that monthly charge. That's actually a loss leader. We're probably going to lose a little money at that to get going. And then at some point in the longer future, We'll reduce that once we kind of hit the break-even point, and then we start producing a product. We're going to use that money to help push that down, or as we get volume, and we'll be constantly looking at this process to get better. We're already jumping kind of 3 or 4 things that other people do that are subsidized by a city or state and have extra money. As a private entity, we're having to come out of the gate as efficient as possible so that I can fund this until we get to that critical path. Then for commercial, we're offering $40 setup fee and $40 a month. And then we've got 30 plus restaurants signed up in Central Arkansas already, and some of them have promised us wild amounts of beer bottles and wine bottles. So we're really looking forward to a lot of product and maybe piling it up for a while. But like I said, this is a learning process, and somebody's just got to dig in and do it. All right, continuing on the logistics. We're going to collect from multiple sources. You know, the residential. We've offered some community drop-off centers if that's an interest to y'all at the parks, or even we've talked over here at your solid waste district to put our containers over there. So instead of you trucking them over to waste management and putting in their pile, which we've seen and talked to them, they want out of it. Waste management in a year is getting out of glass. It hurts their stream. So if we can help y'all get yours out, save you some money, that's a win-win for us too, because we'll be in the neighborhood picking up our stuff. And then we've talked to some bars and restaurants, and then obviously there's an opportunity. We've talked to some liquor store owners that said, you know what, people are coming in to buy whatever. It'd be great if they had a container outside they could leave last week's bottles and get new ones. And so, I mean, everybody we've talked to has been positive. I've not had any negative feedback on we're thinking about doing this. And, call me crazy, and they go, actually, we're in. How can we help? So that's been very positive. All the glass we collect is going to go back to our facility in Little Rock. We bought 9 acres next to the airport. It's actually right under the airport flyway, so it's been kind of cool as people fly in. I've got a 2-acre solar field. Our new facility is completely solar powered. And then hopefully we'll have a 5,000 square foot pile of glass. So kind of a glittering, cool, solar paneled entry to Little Rock. I'm hoping somebody's flying and go, I've never been here, but whatever they're doing, it's better than what I thought, what I imagined, So we're hoping to present Central Arkansas in a good way as they come in. Then we'll crush that down until you have to delabel it. You have to crush it down, and then it blows the labels out, and you collect that off to the side. We're probably going to take it down to a dust or even a pollen type consistency is what most people want. So it's like 4 microns or some crazy number that I didn't realize you crushed it that much. But like I said, as we're learning, that's going to be the best thing. And then our long term, the best product we found now is a construction material called a glass foam aggregate. You put that into concrete and it knocks about 40% of the weight out of it. So on a slab or a bridge or an embankment or whatever, you give that to an engineer and say, hey, I just took 40% of the aggregate, 85% of the aggregate weight out for you, and it still performs the same way. That gives them a lot more options. Cost a little bit more, but you save it on the backside with other things. So right now that's kind of where we're leaning, but that could change. No matter what, we're going to have to turn it into something. Because right now, if you crush it and ship it to somebody, you can't get what your transportation cost is out of it. It's revenue neutral, which means we can never drive the cost of collection down, and then we're giving those jobs and that revenue over to Oklahoma or Kansas. And I'm kind of a homeboy. I want to keep that here if we can. All right. Further on logistics. What we're planning, this is kind of the timeline of what we're looking at. Unless y'all just completely disagree with what we plan to do, we're hoping to send out direct mailers next week and get this out on the market. We've been talking to some people and doing kind of word of mouth marketing so far, but we'd really like to send this out to the citizens next week. We've been talking to some restaurants too. We'd like to have those bins out. We've got them. They'll be here at the end of the week. I've got 300 something of them already coming, and try to put those out the first week of April. And then hopefully within 2 weeks of that, do our first collection run and start going. And it may be slow at first. I'd love to see 200 people signed up the first month. I'm realistic. If we get 30 or 40 or 50, then I would call that a good start. But as we send out more mailers and do more stuff, I think that it'll get some traction because, like I said, just a small sampling of people that I know that live out here have said, man, yeah, I'm in. I would love that, even if it's just to contribute to the cause to get this going. So our residential marketing plan. First, like I said, we're going to send out a mailer to prospective customers in my mail. We've already got a social media page mostly prepared, and I think we'll see it in just a second here. We'll get to it. Actually, we'll just jump into those, because that'll be self-explanatory. There you go. So we've got social media ads. We use these already for my glass company because we do some residential work. So we've got pretty good coverage. I think my glass companies get something like 40,000 looks a week. So that's pretty good impressions for the kind of money we're spending. And we're going to kind of tag those together, which is part of the reason we use that brand. One, I'm not creative enough to come up with another name. And second, I've already got some brand recognition that I get to kind of borrow off of. And I can move some of my residential money over to this and contribute to the cost. We've got social media ads already prepared. We've got this mailer. There's the front and back, and I'm sorry that's so small, but I think we can email it out if you've got more interest or really want to dig into it. We'll be glad to share that. Like I said, we always like feedback. We have a landing page prepared, and we've reserved a number of Ace Glass recycling related names and options and all kinds of stuff. So I can't imagine anybody's chasing us down to steal that page or what little bit of brand recognition we've got, but you got to do it these days, it seems like. And next is the picture of the container bin. Our corporate colors are kind of gray, black, and gray and black, or silver and black. Every glass company in the state has white trucks, it seems like, with logos. So a few years ago, to differentiate us, we went silver. That's one of the silver and bronze are the two kinds of metal you see on everything. So, and that makes it a little different. They said, blue is the recycling color. I went, nobody cares what color the bin is. If the logo's out there and it holds bottles, they'll put it in there. So anyways, that just kind of fell in our deal. The commercial marketing plan is a little bit different. We're going to go one-to-one with commercial clients. We know a lot of restaurant owners. I grew up in high school working in a lot of restaurants and have the pleasure of being friends with a lot of restaurant owners throughout Central Arkansas. I didn't like to cook in college, so it was a lot easier to go out and make friends with the local bar owners and restaurant owners. Then we're going to develop and distribute a brochure that explains the benefits, and we've already done some of that and have gotten good response. We're going to do some press releases to hype the program with different people. What we saw in Fayetteville they did is it was really funny. They did a pilot program similar to this for the restaurants, and all the ones that participated put a big ad in the newspaper in Fayetteville and said, go see these people who recycle. And they got tons of phone calls. Hey, how do I get on that list next time? I'm embarrassed that I didn't sign. They said, we told you we wanted you to do this and be part of it. And you said, no, thank you. So now they said, well, thank you now. Can we get in? So we'll be doing the same kind of thing. Because I think there's got to be a little bit of self-interest in this. We need to promote those restaurant owners and businesses that get it and are helping us. So we're going to be doing that and try to help them win too. And then we've already talked to the Arkansas Hospitality Association. And they're very interested. And I may have skipped a point a second ago. Yes, I did. And you don't have to jump back to it. But I don't know if y'all have seen yet. Y'all are getting a media app. It's a live streaming sports app through, I think, the school district, through Mascot Media. And I just happen to have a connection. My brother's their national sales manager. But I got the opportunity. He said, hey, you're about to do this recycling deal out there. And, unless they just, like I said, run you out of town on a rail, would you like to sponsor their app? And I said, I would love to, because that's the high school kids and the parents and all that stuff. So we think that's a good connection. Plus, it automatically puts part of that money right back into the school district because they do a profit sharing with all the schools. So it's been really neat to watch him grow that and that company grow over Arkansas. But to be one of the first ones to grab onto that was kind of neat for us to be on the front again. I've got 2 copies of those brochures that we were using for the restaurants. And then a couple of slides later there's that tub. And you've seen them on the back of trucks. They put them, I think some of the fertilizer companies and stuff recycle them and do things like that. But like I said, we bought 40 of them. There's a whole pile of them over by the port. And they don't know what, they're like, yeah, we recycle them, but nobody's taking plastic right now because they've shut down the export of recycled plastic, and it's not worth breaking them down for the little bit of aluminum in them. We said, we've got a great plan for those things. And so we're buying them at not a bad price, but then we're adding on. My guys got together and came up with that kind of panel package instead of just a big old tub sitting out there that, one, it restricts the top if you put those in the community, and then you don't see it there, but it's got a hinge in the back so at a restaurant they can flip that top up and keep it kind of secure and keep stuff from getting in there, but then they can open it up real easy and dump their bottles and things in there. So like I said, that'll probably be a work in process over time, but we patted ourselves on the back for coming up, for not having to buy a bunch of dumpsters and do one more. We took something that was getting thrown away or recycled and turned it into a usable container again. All right, I think I've spoken fast and longer than I'd intended to. Do I have any questions?
Councilmember Anderson?
I just had a question about the residential side. So it's going to be by subscription only. So if you pay the $10 fee or whatever, you're going to drop off the tote, and then as long as they're paying that fee, they keep that tote or whatever, and then you pick it up. I
Yes, sir.
guess,
Mhm.
Afterwards.
Yeah, it's kind of a strange model. They've done this in Kansas City and Denver, Seattle, a bunch of places. They've got people that are so into it. They do it as a side hustle. That's their Saturday mornings is picking up glass bottles. We thought, well, that's a great model.
Well, and the reason I asked that is because when we were looking at single stream recycling, there was a company that came to us and wanted a total buy-in or not, and I just wondered how that if you have to have a certain amount of subscriptions to really get this off the ground.
Right now, the model is very scalable. I'll give you two things. The single stream, everybody's getting back away from. Because if you look at in Little Rock, where they take one big tote, so you put your bottles, we put our cardboard flattened, our plastic, paper, all that stuff in there. Well, they dump that over the top of the trash deal. When they get 3 or 4 houses down and they've got too much deal, so what they do, they take the big metal thing and they crush all that together. Well, what happens when you crush glass into paper and plastic? It's no longer usable. So all that trash, including your paper and plastic, goes to single stream doesn't work well. And worse than that, here's another number. Little Rock last year, including what y'all sent over there, sent 200 tons of glass to Kansas. That's in 90,000 households plus Maumelles, 3,000-4,000, something like that. So 90-something thousand households produced 200 tons of glass. Fayetteville, out of 20,000 households, produced 1,600 tons by curb sorting. They do paper, plastic, and bottles all three together at the curb in a special trash truck. Now, that is a city-owned government or a government-owned entity, so it's a private business, but it's not for profit, and they get to spread those costs across their solid waste, their water, all that stuff. So they've got a volume model. But that's the problem with single stream. Everybody that said they would do that has regretted it. And now Waste Management, I've got friends over there who've said, we want out. If you'll figure this out, we may help us out this year. So we're going to probably take the voluntary. But that's why it doesn't work well.
Well, and I understand that. I guess my question was: is there a certain number that you need to have to get this off the ground as far as subscribers?
Not really. Lucky for me, I've got guys that are doing stuff that can drive our trucks, and that we're going to teach to do that. So we're going to scale up. Once I have a truck, do it. If it's 3, we'll do that. I mean, like I said, this is truly a service deal. We're trying to figure this out. I don't think it'll be there. If it did, if that was the number we're going to get back, the responses, I might not be here. Right. I think there's more to it than that, but it won't take many to get a truck full. I mean, I think a truck can pick up to 200 houses a day. That's 2 guys in a truck, and that's about a ton of recycled glass. That's a full truck. Once I have a full truck, or a couple of them, those 2 guys will go back to work on our manufacturing side unless they just fall in love with glass collection. And they'll go back into that, and we'll start hiring some people in training. So we try to make this scalable, because if I go all in and it doesn't work, then in 6 months I'm back going, hey, I appreciate y'all letting me have the opportunity, but this isn't going to work. It had to be something that I bought 2 trucks, and I've got my own guys and insurance and all that stuff. So like I said, I had an advantage that I could contribute some of my own resources to get this thing going and scale it up to hopefully a point where we go, holy smokes, when it's going like gangbusters, I need 2 more trucks and 4 guys, and let's go. That's my hope. But if it just slowly trickles in, that's it. I mean, we're going to watch this one for about 2 or 3 months. And I live next to Camac Village. We've looked there. I'm friends with the mayor of Bryant. She's interested in having stuff down. I said, let me get in here and hang out with Mama a little bit and get my arms around this and do this, because I don't want to spread too. Because if it does go off really great, I got to scale it up, and I got to be able to keep my commitment. So I'm committing to y'all that y'all are first, and you're getting the first fruit of this deal. And I think it's going to go well, but I want to make sure that I can scale it up right and do a good job for y'all first before we offer it to somebody else.
I think it's a great idea, and I'm for it all the way. So thank you.
I appreciate your questions.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, this sounds like a great business niche that you're getting into. Now you're already. Did I hear you say you're in the architectural glass business? What does that mean?
Well, we put glass in Carti Hospital, Robinson Auditorium, most of UAMS, most of Children's Hospital, most of the buildings downtown. So we're a large commercial glass company, also the largest Anderson window dealer in the state. And if you just took my windows and just my showers and mirrors that we do, we'd be still the biggest glass company in the state, but we do many times that because of commercial. So my dad was an aluminum sales guy and got into it. I went in the family business, left and went to practice law. And just once it's in your blood, sometimes you just come back. So I'm a recovering attorney, but we're a really big glass company. We just finished Children's Hospital Northwest, J.B. Hunt, and we're doing the north end zone of the stadium. So we get all the really big, crazy, scary, cool jobs in the state. I've got great people that do it. I wish I take credit for it. I just happen to have a great team of people that do really good work.
Okay. So this is kind of new. You're actually going to be recycling this into glass feedstock for people that want to manufacture a glass product.
That would be the goal of one stream of it. All the stuff I'm recycling here that we're talking about is going to be crushed, hopefully, and turned into an aggregate. We'll add a foam product to it, and it'll be an aggregate like you would put in a concrete slab. Instead of granite rock, you would put in this product that would be like 99% recycled content.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. I wish you well. I don't see any problem with it. I think that's great that you picked us. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, y'all stand on your own. It's I think y'all earned that spot by being who you are. So I appreciate y'all.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Williams.
Mr. Little, thank you for coming and talking to us today. Ace Glass has been one of my favorite companies for a long, long time, and the work you do in reentry has been very well known in my circles. And I appreciate that. Your company is awesome. And I'm excited about this. I think we're lucky that you chose us, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, we didn't want much participation, just wanted a blessing and want y'all to be out promoting it to everybody and saying this is something good for us. So that's why we're here tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Mr. Little? I'd appreciate a motion from the council that they just consent to Ace Glass entering into this pilot program. It's just basically we're not endorsing them necessarily. We're not giving them ultimate franchise to be the only one out here. You know, there could be a competitor pop up tomorrow, and Mr. Little just has to do a better job than they are doing. And
somebody has to be crazier than me.
Mr. Mayor, I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to consent to allow Ace Glass to start the glass recycling pilot program in Maumelle. Is there a discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Little.
Thank you for your time, and we appreciate your consent to do this, and we'll try to make you proud. I appreciate y'all.
And if you want to, once you get the Facebook and everything, get us the information and we'll put it out there for you.
We'll keep running by things before we put them out, just because I want to make sure. I think there were concerns about the phone numbers and website. We want to make sure that you have all the tools you need. I think we'll do a good job of promoting, but those odd out calls that call y'all instead, we want to make sure you've got good information to share.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
May I be excused?
Yes, sir. You may.
Thank you. No.
You don't have to stay.
I try not to leave a room without being excused. Thanks very much.
We have another presentation tonight, and it's the all-exclusive playground presentation. And I think Mr. Philip Rayburn with our Parks and Rec is going to start it off, and then I think Dave Roberts is going to take it after he starts it. So,
good evening. I'm Philip Rayburn, Maumelle Parks and Rec Director, 124 Pleasantwood Drive, Maumelle. Basically, I wanted to come here tonight to catch the council up on kind of what we've done in the past and kind of where we're at now and the next step we need to get done to get started on this all-inclusive playground. To start with, it was back in 2014 is when I first requested in the capital budget a splash pad. It didn't make it in. They are expensive, and it's just one of those things that we would have really liked to have, but there were some other needs at the time for the city. In 2015 and 16, I didn't put it in the budget again because I had some equipment and other needs for the Parks Department at that time. But I did come back in at 2017, and it was basically the same thing. The city had some other needs at the time. So we've I've been kind of trying to get this going. It hasn't been too successful yet, so we're trying a different avenue on this. We had a playground committee selected. I've been working with them. What the playground committee has done so far is they first started out, we interviewed 3 other playground companies, and they gave presentations, and the committee selected one of those to move forward so we would have something to show the council of what we're looking at doing. We ended up going with Cunningham Recreation. They're with Game Time Playgrounds. And another issue that another meeting we had, we actually went to Burns Park. They have an all-inclusive playground. And we actually had one of our meetings out there. It's called One Heart Playground, Inclusive Playground. And that gave all the committee members, I've seen most of this equipment, different trade shows and different playgrounds. But it gave the committee a hands-on experience. They got to see the equipment, how it worked, the accessibility. And we had our playground rep there that would walk us through that also. And just gave a whole lot better idea of what we were looking at. The committee also selected a theme for the playground. Since it's going to be located right next to Lake Willisteen, we went with the fishing hole idea.
Like Valencia.
I did say, yeah.
Valencia.
Not Lake Willisteen, Lake Valencia, thank you. So we went with the fishing hole theme. And then we went, next few meetings, we went into getting a name for the playground. And it came down to Maumelle Play and Splash Park for Everyone. So that kind of gets the playground and the splash park kind of connected in that name. So that kind of is what the committee has done since the latter part of 2017. We really got the ball moving pretty quickly. Then the holidays came in, so it kind of slowed down. Alderman Anderson got sick on us for a little bit, so
I didn't get to go on the field trip.
Yeah, he did miss the field trip, but we kept moving forward. And where we're at currently is we're trying to find a partner with a 501c3 so we can, once we start getting donations and grants and monies in, we've got a place for it to go. So that's the next hurdle we're looking at now. And I think we've got one, and we should know here pretty quickly if that's going to come to fruition. Now I'd like to introduce Dave Roberts. He's a Maumelle resident. He works for Craft and Toll. He has volunteered a lot of time helping the Parks Department and this committee on this PowerPoint presentation and the layout and how it all fits in there. So at this time, I'd like for Dave to come up and go through the PowerPoint presentation, and then any questions that the council may have. So I think this answers some questions you may have, but if you have any after that, we'll be happy to answer those for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Philip. Good evening. Dave Roberts, 155 Marseille Drive. I'm a planner with Craft and Toll. Last time I was in front of you all was for the Maumelle Forward Comprehensive Plan, so it's been a few years. So I want to run through this design so you can see why we're doing this. I mean, who will use this park? Some people say, well, why do we need an inclusive park? Well, it's for everyone, including those who might be adults that are in a chair or have mobility issues like grandparents or veterans that have come back with issues with kids. Of course, kids are going to use it, especially kids that have special needs. Seniors might come out there and use this as well. And one more click will get the next image, which is the families. I mean, everyone can use it, and that's the beauty of this type of park. If you go to the next slide, including my daughter, who has special needs. She has cerebral palsy. She's at the high school now. That's the reason we moved here, so she could go to the middle school and high school. 2 years ago, she won homecoming queen for the middle school, so it was quite an honor. But unfortunately, we've always had to go elsewhere for her to play because the playgrounds we have here in Maumelle are not inclusive and they're not accessible. So we would have to go to places that have designed them for all users, as opposed to some of the ones that are here that really have accessibility issues. So if you go to the next slide, this is what we're talking about. If you look at that chart on the left, you have of 1,000 kids, 85 of them have some type of disability, and it ranges from physical to sensory all the way through to communication and cognitive. You go to any of our schools and you will see some of those kids. Some of them are integrated into classrooms like my daughter is, and then there's others that are in the CBI rooms, and they need places to play. And the cool thing about an inclusive play is that it takes everybody and brings them together. There's that social interaction. So all those barriers are broken down. Instead of like, this is our playground and my daughter might be watching them play, everyone's together and they're playing together. And the design of these playgrounds, not planning like what I do, but the playground companies like Game Time have really done a good job making play accessible. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see. So why does Maumelle need one? Well, this is one I designed a few years back, about 4 years ago in East End. East End's a lot smaller than Maumelle, and they were ready to build one. And so it's the first park for Saline County. The county had never had a park. And so they built this one. The next 2 slides are going to show images of it under construction, when it was completed, and there you can see they had a grand opening. And what was great about this is they celebrated it. They got the Attorney General there. This is a few years back, but they got some congressmen, they got representatives there, and they just made a big deal with the media to say, look, this is important to our community, and hopefully we can do the same thing. The next slide is one that we just finished designing in Bryant. It's at Mills Park, which is an older park. They had an old style playground. It all got ripped out. They're putting it in 2 phases, and the blues you see there are different pods, meaning you have play structures with ramps. Others are accessible swings and all different apparatus, but it's tucked amongst the existing trees. So it's kind of a neat concept, and the theme there is more of a castle theme. So each one of those blues that you see are rubber, and that's water, and the pathways are the drawbridges to the moats. And so the play structures kind of represent so you go to the next image and you'll see this isn't built yet, but this is kind of the theme that they'll have for a lot of their playground. And the next slide will show you that I'm designing one right now. We did the master plan for 51 acres in Fort Smith, and right in the center you see a playground and a Miracle League field. And the city of Fort Smith said they couldn't believe they didn't have one that was inclusive. They really wanted a Miracle League field like Little Rock and Springdale and Jonesboro have. And so right now we're doing the drawings for this. There's going to probably about next year they're going to build it. All of these I've showed you have funded it through city funding. We're going to take a different approach here. The next 2 clicks will just show Miracle League field and a themed playground. We don't know yet exactly what it's going to look like. By the way, that's my daughter playing Miracle League quite a few years ago when she was little. Yeah, baseball. Miracle League is baseball on a rubber field for special needs with volunteers that come out and help them play. Next slide. So I just borrowed this image from Maumelle Ford. So where would it be located? As a committee, we got together and said, where do we want to have it? Do we want to have it out by the ball fields? Well, that's kind of removed from most of the community. Do we want to have it over at Lake Willestein? But there was a lot of other things happening there. And really, we landed on the site at Lake Valencia just because it's next to the library, by City Hall, a big school across the street, and the city owned that piece of land just north of the tennis courts. So the next slide will show you the aerial view of where it sits. And what was added to the site is some additional parking just off the drive to the there to the east, which is by the library. The rest of it fits in nicely into the context. And so if you come there, once it's built and you want to park, you can either street park. If you're special needs, you'll park in the handicap parking there off the drive, or there's a large parking lot across the street at the school, especially on weekends or evenings. So it shouldn't be an issue. So the next slide just zooms in a little bit. So you can see what we're looking at is a rubber surface playground on the right, and on the left is the splash pad. Depending on how the fundraising goes, they could be 2 separate phases at different times. Playground on the right being first. And when there's a gate, if you can see the word proposed sidewalk right in the middle on an angle, there's a gate on either side of that. So all those are independently fenced in with a gate across from each other. So if you entered into the playground, you could go, if you're in a wheelchair, you're elderly with a walker, whatever, you could go up that ramp, which is sloped to the right, and off to those yellow boardwalks, if you will, to the different play structures. Or if you're down on the rubber surface, which is the blue, kind of the fishing hole, You could go underneath, and there's a lot of activity panels and lots of things to do either from above or below. And then on the left side, the splash pad will have a lot of spray, toys, and different elements that work with the theme. They'll look like cattails or lilies and different, that they all spray and splash. And that'll be activated with a pedestal, so it's not just going to constantly run. It's only when there's someone there. And the last change you'll see is that the existing building there on the bottom left would be expanded for a restroom that would be a family-style, accessible restroom for a tabletop changing. So if you have someone like my daughter who can't go to the restroom herself, she needs assistance. As children become adults, they get bigger. It's tricky. You can't just fit them on a little baby changing thing. So we need to improve that as well, and it makes sense to have it right here. So the next slide are just some of the features you'll see. The bottom right is a sway apparatus. A chair can slide on, but able-bodied kids can jump in there and they could all sway together. You have the swing at the bottom middle where a mom and a young child could swing face-to-face. It could be different age. There's different apparatuses you could attach to that with swing pieces. Bottom left is a different type of swing, and the top left is something, again, that everyone can do together. So that's the idea, is that it's for all. And the next slide, I'll just show you some images of splash pads. The one across the top is sort of what we're thinking. You'll have a few spray toys, but it'll kind of match that theme, and it'll likely be recirculated, so not much cost and very low maintenance. And I think the last slide is just the image again. So who's going to pay for this? So one more slide, and you'll see that we're doing a fundraising effort. What's great about Game Time is they have a fundraiser as part of their company, and they don't charge for that. They know communities sometimes need help, go to a foundation to hold the money. So we're going to do a similar presentation to this at the Chamber's quarterly business brief, and then we're looking for companies to sponsor. There'll be a tackle box, if you will, and if you want to give $500 for this play piece or that element or this thing, or if you want to give $10,000, say one of the companies here in town, their names go on a donor board that'll be out there. This has been real successful in communities kind of in the Midwest with this same company. And so, sometimes civic groups jump in. We can go after grants, like Philip mentioned. So all of that will funnel into the 501c3. People get their tax write-off on that. And then if someone steps up and says, I want to call it the Mike Watson Playground, and he's going to cut $50,000, then he gets the naming rights, right? So whoever wants to pay, they're welcome. And I think that's my last slide. Yes. So we're open for any questions.
Thank you for anything's named after me. I have to die, Dave. So.
That's right.
Do what?
I think the foundation.
Oh. I have several questions here. So Councilmember Scott was first. I know that.
Did you say you have a 501c3 lined up?
We did, and then it didn't work.
Yeah, but I think I've got another one.
Oh, okay.
But I don't want to go too far.
Well, because
But if
I'm
we have another choice, that'd be great.
I'm on a committee
Okay.
that is a nonprofit, and if you'd like to speak to me about that afterwards, I have, of course, would have to talk to the committee, but we might be interested in helping you with that. Maumelle Live Work Play.
Well,
No,
well, no, go ahead.
finished.
Councilmember Saunders.
Thank you, Mayor. I probably have 2 or 3 questions. I guess the first one that I'm curious about, have you put together some numbers for a ballpark estimate of what this would cost?
Yes. You may tell them. It's in the 800,000.
And you're saying, and I'm not arguing, but just so I understand clearly, and everybody else does, you're saying you think you can raise that much money for this?
We're talking to the playground company. It is possible. They have done it, but I asked the question, what time frame, and he's saying minimum 2 years. But like Dave said, we could do it in phases. That's how originally I was going to do it. I was going to start with this splash pad first. But to me, it really makes no difference. I think the playground going in first. If we had to phase it, I would go that way now.
Approximately, if you have, again, just a ballpark figure, approximately how much of that 800,000 is the splash pad?
300.
300? You know, something that comes to mind that I think we should all keep in mind here. Had I been on your committee, I would have brought this up. I remember when we put in the skateboard playground. Everybody was so hot on that and how great. From my perception, and you see it more than I do, it's extremely underutilized. Now, how do we know that this is going to be any different? I mean,
On the skate park deal, you are correct. It's trendy. It comes and goes. In fact, today there was 4 kids out there today that I hadn't seen on before. And it's also more seasonal. Now on the playgrounds, just by going, because again, this playground, the only difference between this playground and any other playground we have is anybody can use any piece of equipment on it. Some of ours are handicap accessible, but it's only 1 or 2 pieces of equipment that they can access. And you can go to, if it's sunny tomorrow, and you've been out at Lake Williston,
And spring
yeah.
break.
that playground is always crowded.
It
The one
is.
on Edgewood is always crowded. All of our new ones are heavily used. The ones at the ballparks during season when the brothers and sisters are out on the fields playing ball. There's that playground, that baseball. I've seen it Twitter so many kids on it. It's almost could be dangerous.
ground shook. Yeah.
So between this and a skate park, that's the biggest difference. Skate parks are trendy. You'll see new kids out, and then the ones that we're doing it aren't doing it anymore. But that's why we went. That's probably one of the smaller skate parks that are in Arkansas.
So I've been master planning parks and communities for almost 30 years now, 28 years. And what we've seen in the past 20 years is communities getting out of swimming pools.
Yes.
They don't want to maintain them. They're aging, poorly. This is a huge cost. They have to staff them with lifeguards. And for the past 20 years, communities are going to splash pads. And we're seeing that stand steady, increase
And
both in Oklahoma and Arkansas.
And to add to that, I would caution that we might lose some members from the pool once something like that's put in for the little kids. Now, as they get bigger and they're swimming, we'll probably get them back. But I could see we might drop some memberships.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to me that the splash pad would have more appeal to a much younger crowd. Because when you get into teenagers, they typically want deeper water, I would think.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Okay, and you just kind of led right in with probably my last question. And that is, when we were talking about an indoor pool, one of the things that we hit on was the maintenance cost. How does, and I'm not talking about just the splash pad, but that might be the most expensive maintenance item in this park. Probably is. But is the city, Parks and Rec, going to maintain all of this?
Yes. Just
Okay.
Like we would any of our other.
But there's not going to be a fee for it, so this is going to be an additional expense for the city to maintain this.
Yes.
Down
And-
the road, most of the
Right.
equipment is warranted, like the rubber surface is warranted for 10 years. So different parts and pieces are going to have a warranty that's going to last quite a while before you're going to have any kind of
And
maintenance.
on the servicing, we've got the same style servicing at the Woodland Park, Lake Williston Parks, and the ball fields. And you can buy a patch kit, and that's something our department has done. And you basically trowel it on like you do cement, and add a binder. So that's something that we currently already do, and it's not that expensive to.
Okay, I'll hush. And the reason I ask is because we as a body we work with money and for the city. And so that's always a concern. Have you put together any numbers as a ballpark number of what the maintenance cost on this facility would be?
Maintenance would be, on an ongoing basis, would be more, like you say, on the splash pad, because it operates like a swimming pool, but on a way smaller scale than what we have. You would have a container underground that holds the water, and then you treat it just like you would you chlorinate it, pH, just like what we do the big pool, but in a smaller scale. And it would be under $3,000 for a year.
Okay, for the whole complex?
Yes.
That's pretty reasonable. That's,
Because the playground, that equipment, like I said, our other parks, I've been here almost 25 years. I've replaced 2 slides.
okay.
And one of them wasn't because of heavy usage, it was because of vandalism. But the other one was just, it was like Wilson, it was worn out.
Well, you know, based on what y'all have said tonight and the questions you've answered for me, it sounds like a pretty good deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd like to add just one more thing, and that is, there's a benefit to something like this when your community takes that step to be inclusive. You actually can gain folks moving to your town. I mean, when they see that that you are inclusive, there are a lot of people who probably look around at communities and say, well, I'm not going to live there because of this and that. Just like the gentleman before you with the glass saying the Amazons and some of the big corporations are looking to see if you're sustainable. It's the same kind of thing. Maybe the number's a little smaller, but companies sometimes are looking for places that have progressive parks like this.
You know, based on what I've seen at Willistine, and I've said this a million times if I've said it once, I am proud of Willistine because it's very utilized. I mean, you don't hardly go out there, but you don't see lots of people. And it's a personality of this town. So with our personality, it might be that this would go over good.
Yeah, when I design, as you've seen a handful of design these for communities, a lot of times people say, well, we don't have any special needs kids. We don't have anyone disabled in our town. Well, you don't see them because you don't provide for them. But when you do, you're going to realize that everyone's going to interact together. So it's definitely a win-win.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering the questions. I'll leave you alone.
Councilmember Saunders, I do want to point out one thing. The cost was in operation mainly for the indoor pool. It wasn't in maintenance. It was operation because it was going to be opened from it was going to be open 18 hours a day almost, 16 hours a day, and it had to be staffed, and then you had to pay the utilities and all that. So it was the operational cost, not the maintenance cost, that we were really concerned about.
I misspoke. I meant operational.
Okay,
I
all
said
right.
maintenance.
Okay, all right.
Operational.
Yeah, but it was the staffing that was the biggest issue with that, and then the utility costs. So, yeah, so just wanted to point that out, that was the concern that we had about that.
Yeah.
Councilmember Vapurzian?
Thank you so much. I think this is so long overdue for our city. I've worked with autism for 15 years very, very closely. I've been in more IEPs than I could count. I've been to the Miracle League and Little Rock more than I could count. I'd love to see us have our own Miracle League field here.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be absolutely brilliant. I know people who move states, and so do you, because of their children who are disabled for education or for whatever, medical, whatever they can get to help their child out. And so kudos to you, who went under incredible opposition right here when all you wanted was permission to seek this out. And this is such a huge part of society, and so many people, and you know it as much as I do, that sometimes we want out of sight, out of mind. And people who don't work close with children who have difficulties have absolutely zero clue what you go through on a day-to-day basis. And I am very, very pleased with this. It's such a huge need in our society, in our city. We have thousands and thousands of children every week that use our parks and rec, use our fields, use our playgrounds, and we don't have one place where children with special needs can go. It is long overdue, and whatever I can do or we can do to help, well, I am 150% behind this. Thank you so much.
A donation would be great.
You got it. You got it.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, but first I'll say I've gained a lot of experience with splash pads with 3 little grandkids here the last 4 years since you first brought that up. And they are quite a social scene. We've been to a number of them around Little Rock, hit one in Oklahoma City and stuff like that. And so it's everybody seems to have a lot of fun. These little kids, it's really a great deal. Alderman Saunders asked a lot of the questions I might have had, and he asked some good ones there. And I just had a couple of little follow-ups. You had mentioned, raising funds. Have you had certain experiences you could share with maybe the East End one and the one in Bryant? Was that where it was?
Yeah.
Is how that worked out?
Well, the one in Bryant used bond money. Their playground was close to $1 million, and I say 3/4 of that was coming out of the bond. So they're fun. So they're already ahead of the game. You know, they're going to phase it until the other part catches up. East End was primarily state parks grants, as well as some fundraising. They didn't use the same playground company, so they didn't have a fundraiser. And so it took them probably 4 years to really, and that's a much smaller playground. The images I showed, it's about the size of this room, or smaller. It's pretty small. But for East End and their population, it's next to a facility called I Can Dance, which is a Julie Mayberry created dance facility for special needs kids. And so it kind of piggybacks. The group is already coming there to learn to dance and to do different functions. And it's right next door to that. So kind of apples and oranges. But I've heard from Game Time, and they've shown us when they presented to the group in that selection review, and I've seen others that they've done 10, 12 or more of these across the kind of middle part of the country, and some of them phenomenal when they talk about how fast they raise the money and what they raise. So it just depends on the community. I mean, and if it goes slower, it just goes slower. It just depends on, you know, who's willing to step up. If corporations is typically where we get them, you see the funding come from. So.
All right. I have one other question. Can you share with us a little bit more about what makes maybe a playground inclusive as opposed to not inclusive? Is it mainly accessibility, or like, for example, the splash pad down at War Memorial has some rock cliffs and some things like that probably would not be, but could you elaborate on that?
Typically, it's the first step is the accessibility. So you have to be able to get there and function between all the elements. Usually that's on rubber surfacing, which is now typical for most playgrounds as a safety fall zone. The ramp, what you don't want to have is a ramp that just goes up to one platform and you really can't do anything. You know, a lot of times you'll see climbers and all these other things that, say, someone in a wheelchair or a senior with a walker is just kind of stuck right there. There's really not much they can do. A good inclusive playground design allows you, like in this one, to enter on the left up that ramp, which is going to look like a dock, if you will, with that theme. And you could go to the first yellow vertical and come off to that at a lower level. You ramp a little higher, you can go to the second one. And you can come all the way out to the end and come back and come off the ramp at the other end. Well, I have a friend who's a mother who's in a wheelchair, and she has 2 able-bodied boys. And her biggest complaint was a lot of times she couldn't get to where the kids were. And so she didn't want just one ramp going here, and then she'd have to fight her way through crowds of kids to get off the ramp. And so that's why now we designed kind of a 2-end exit entrance so she could come up and through and then all the way off the other end to come back and around. And then the other thing is that there's just a handful of playground companies in the country that are doing very inclusive play elements. I showed a few images of things that you might call like a merry-go-round type thing or that sway fun thing. And there's one at Pinnacle State Park. I took my daughter when she was younger. We got on it. I'm big enough I could kind of sway the thing, and she's having fun. And kids just come running over, and they hop on because they see me doing it, and they're playing with her, and everyone's high-fiving and having a great time. And then they're, oh, yeah, she's in a wheelchair. So they never even noticed it initially. So that's inclusion. You get everyone together playing and having fun. So you have to have the right equipment in order for that to happen.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. And as Alderman Vapor-Sand said, kudos. And Anderson here. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Rayburn or Mr. Roberts?
And Terry, thank you for your help on the committee, too.
Yes, yes.
And Timmons?
And Timmons.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to add, this is a destination park. Like you said, you go to go to Little Rock or Oklahoma or someplace. People will be coming here from out of town to this park. Right now, you have to go other places to even be involved in this sort of play. And I'm excited about the fact that we'll be bringing in people, and especially now, I mean, that's going to be a revenue producer for us in the long run. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's been an eye-opener learning process, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm ready to get to work on it.
It's ageless.
It is ageless. Anybody can play.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to say that, when we started this whole kind of idea, we did start with a small small group to kind of get the idea off the ground. And we pretty much kind of got the idea off the ground, and then we just handed it to Philip. And Philip's really been, our leader on this. And I just wanted to remind everybody in the community that we did start off with a small group, but now it's time for everybody. Now we need everybody's involvement, and it's not just for these small group meetings that we come together and hash out various different things. We need input from everybody, and I wanted to tell Alderman Saunders that he's more than welcome to come in and give some of those that feedback that we're so looking for, so that we can make this a great destination spot for our community and get us back in that progressive mode as a family community where we live, work, and play. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's not any other comments, we appreciate y'all being here and explaining all the process to the council.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Y'all can be excused if y'all want to. I guess I'm going to start saying that. Yeah. Oh, they want to stay?
Yeah, they want to stay.
Oh, look there. No. They Oh, taco night. Okay. All right. Taco Tuesday. Yep. All right. The next item is the approval of the minutes from the March 5th regular meeting. You have a copy of those minutes in your packet. Are there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Minutes are approved as submitted. Next item is the financial statement review, and Ms. Vega is here to present that tonight. Oh, excuse me. I skipped one. Public comment. We don't have any public comment cards tonight, so that's why I skipped it. So sorry, but so public comments. All right, now we'll do the financial statement review. Ms. Vega?
Okay, so the first slide is showing what our fund balance is compared to budget for February. And you can see that the sanitation fund, which is on the top, is even with budget. The street fund is the middle one, and it is below budget, and the general fund is above budget. And the yellow line is showing what our minimum requirement is by law to keep in our general fund, and we are surpassing that. The next slide is the general fund revenue, and we're doing good in all areas except for county millage, and county millage is down across the board, across all funds. The next slide is the street fund, and again you can see that the county millage is down, but we're up above budget in street aid program and the state turnback fee. Sanitation, the revenues, this chart looks weird because when we do sanitation billing, it's done quarterly, and so this chart will change as we get into March and June. Okay, the next slide is general fund expenses, and the only area that is looking weird is this city services, and city services is the variances there are workers' comp in 2017 was booked in full, and we are still carrying it under prepaid. The other thing that was in 2017 is the Springbrook maintenance agreement, and that too is in prepaid. And I'll be moving that for the next set of financials in March. The general funds spending by category, this is showing that the bulk of our spending is in fire and police. The street fund expenditures, okay, on this one, the variance on other operating costs is the third entrance design. In 2017, we only had spent, it was new, we were just starting to expend money, and we had $18,000 that we had spent at that time. Now, we're up and really running, and we're waiting on a reimbursement for a $169,000 expenditure. That was put in February 12th, and so we should be getting it any day. The other variance is in 2017, the fuel allocations were not booked in January and February, and that's also why that is looking very low from 2017. Okay, on the sanitation expenses, again, well, I didn't say it on the other slide, but workers' comp is also in prepaid right now, and that's why under the personnel expenses, it's lower than 2017. Again, I'll be correcting that in March. It's not, it's reallocating it in March. And then under other operating expenses, again, that's I've looked and checked this, and I can't see where the problem is on that. We've got the workers' comp. Fuel expense was not allocated, but it's going the wrong way on the chart. I've continued to look into that, and I do not see any errors. The only possibility is that the 2017 report was incorrect, and I pull that number from the prior years, but the 2018 numbers are correct, and that's that report.
Are there any questions for Ms. Vega? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the financials as reported.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the financials for February 28th as reported. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Next item is a response by Ms. Vega regarding the 2017 Finance Director memo. Councilmember Scott had requested that at the last meeting, and so Ms. Vega is prepared to do that.
Okay, so what I'm going to give y'all is a general overview of what I see as the major issues, and then if y'all have any more specific questions, I'll take those at the end. So I've already presented my findings to the Oversight Committee, and we wanted to go over it today with you all. The city has taken these concerns very seriously, and I have looked at them independently on my own to address the issues. Most of the issues that I've found are the finance director's job to make any changes or corrective actions. If you see something, that doesn't look right, it's the finance director's job to look into that and to correct it. And the previous finance director, she did send us an email after she left saying that most of these items were the finance director's job to address and rectify. So one of the big issues was taking on HR responsibilities, and this is not unusual for the finance director to have to take on HR duties when the HR director is absent. over my career, I've been the CFO of many companies. I've been finance director for many companies, and I've had to take over those duties. They always go to the finance director to take on in the absence of the HR person. Sometimes it takes, I've also seen this, it takes extra time to hire an HR director, and that tends to be, you're trying to find the person that's qualified for what you need for that position. They have certain salary expectations. You have a certain salary budget. And I've also seen where you go through the entire process, you make a job offer, and it's declined, because we're not meeting at the same place. And so then you have to start the process all over again. And I've seen that, like having to go through 3 rounds, and it's really, really frustrating. But once you find that right person, it's worth the wait. There was also concern about lack of policies and procedures and internal controls in the finance department. And I can tell you that we have written policies and procedures. We have written desk procedures for certain tasks that happen throughout the month. And so anybody can come in. You could have a new employee come in and do any task that's needed in the finance department and the accounting department, and follow those set of instructions to, get the work done that needs to be done. Also, there was some concerns about the auditors and internal controls. Every year, policies and procedures are reviewed and tested, as well as internal controls. This isn't optional. This is part of an audit. I'm a CPA, and the CPAs are who do the audits, and they are required by the accounting standards that you have to do an audit. It has to be done this way, and there are certain items that have to be tested. And the check on internal controls, if they don't see that you have strong internal controls, then additional testing is done to test those internal controls, and if there's any question. And for the 2016 audit, I did tell the auditors about the issues and concerns, and made sure that they were aware so that they could do additional testing to make sure that we do have strong internal controls. And we do have strong internal controls. And we follow our policies and procedures. There was some, and the other thing about the auditors is, so not only do we have these rules and regulations that we have to follow, but audit firms have to go under peer review, and they essentially get audited for doing audits to make sure that they are using the proper policies and procedures and standards that are set out there. There was an issue with the budget transfer where policy was not followed and procedures were not followed, but this was addressed by resolution by the City Council. There was some discussion about CAW taking over the billing, and that there was a billing agreement. There is not a billing agreement in place with CAW. We are actually just now starting discussions about CAW taking over the billing, and I think that it's a very good avenue that we should take advantage of. But again, we don't know cost yet. We have met with them to explain our billing structure, and they're revamping their software. And so we went to those meetings to give input and feedback on how we do things and what we need as a city. I did actually, it's kind of interesting, I got an email from the CFO of CAW. His name is Jeff Madagascar. I mean, it's not Madagascar, but it looks like Madagascar.
Muscagny.
Huh?
Muscagny.
Thank you. It's Jeff Muscagny. And he wants to meet with us, or he wants to meet with me sometime. And so I'm getting some dates together, and we're going to talk about, the taxes that have passed, the sales tax that have passed. So, that will need to be rebuilt into the system, updated. And I'm working with Caleb and the mayor and the city clerk to work through all those issues so that we are, taxing as soon as we can and doing everything properly. There was also some discussion about that billing, that we were just waiving fees arbitrarily, and we absolutely do not do that. The mayor, by city code, has the ability to waive fees, and I certainly don't waive fees. I don't have that authority, and he only does that in the cases of extreme hardship. And since I've been here, I don't know, maybe once we did it, but that is not a ongoing continued practice that we do. And the other side of that too is the payment plans. We offer a payment plan to our citizens that get behind in their payments, and we do this to help them out, and we don't do it informally or randomly. They have to sign a delinquent payment agreement. We have them come in and put down a down payment on this payment agreement. They have to pay by ACH, which means, we pull the money when it's due, and they have to keep current. So they can't have a payment plan and get behind, or the payment plan is null and void. We do those payment plans for 6 months. If it needs to be extended beyond 6 months and these parameters that I've stated are not there, then I have to go to the mayor and get him to approve or disapprove that payment agreement. And then so when the payment agreements, that doesn't work, that's what rolls into us sending those liens to Pulaski County. So that's the full scope of that process. POs were also raised. Our software assigns PO numbers. I did ask to make changes to the PO system. We had POs, a proper system. You have POs in one place, and you account for every single PO. And so we keep a log of who got the PO, who it's for, what it's for, the amount, all of that. And then once they complete their PO, it goes to the city clerk. And you cannot get more than 5 POs at a time until those have completed the whole process, meaning the approval process, and turned back in. So you can't have, these POs hanging out and they get lost and we can't account for them. That's not going to happen. There was also some discussion about the contracts and agreements, that we did not have those records, and this I did not find to be true. We have to provide the auditors with those contracts and agreements, and the city clerk keeps them. And so I know in going through the audit process that we do have those records, and they are accessible. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about is sales tax. It was discussed that sales tax is being paid based on billing. So here's the difference between that. So the state really wants you to pay sales tax based on your billing, even though you haven't been paid yet. But as a company, as a governmental entity, you want to pay sales tax on the money that you actually received. So you don't want to be prepaying sales tax. It is not wrong to prepay sales tax, to pay on billing. We started January 1 of this year that we are paying based on our collections, because that makes more sense. So does anybody have any questions?
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Vega. Appreciate it. I'm chairman of the Oversight Committee.
That's right.
Alderman Holt's on it, and
Yes.
Alderman Timmons. And I think Alderman Kelly was, but he was unfortunately absent for both our meetings.
Right.
We met with you a couple of times last fall and tried to cut you some slack, I think, as far as your duties, as far as year end and some of the things that were going on.
Right.
And but we appreciate the time you spent with us. And I think I pretty much agree with what you were talking about tonight, and it's probably a good overview of what we discussed. Perhaps probably the three major things I noted that concerned me through the process was the violation of the city policy as far as the budget transfer by the mayor, long periods of times with no bank reconciliations, before you got there, months, maybe a year, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And that's a dangerous thing. You had 33 bank accounts?
We have 33 bank accounts, yes.
And a lot of them were still unreconciled as of our last meeting, I think, in October. And I kind of wanted to ask you what the status of that was.
Well, we got all the bank recs caught up so that we could actually do the audit. And yes, they were reconciled through 2016. 2017, I have everything reconciled except for the general fund. That's carrying through those, like we reconciled within the month to make sure that those transactions were recorded, but carrying the balance from 2016 all the way through 2017. I'm doing that right now for the 2017 audit. That's the only bank account that has not been completely reconciled to current, and that has been done through July.
And I'm sorry you were saddled with such a monumental task about things. There was also one thing that just, and I think we forgot to ask you about it. There was some type of I think you had mentioned there was, you were worried that cash deposits weren't being made on a timely basis and
Oh yeah, that has been corrected.
Good. And I think we had asked you, we were basically through with you and satisfied with where you were going with this, and Holton, Timmons, please let me know if you have any other comments. But I think we were still looking for we had asked you to just kind of do a written summary of each item, whether you thought it was a problem or needed correction, and then if there was a need, what correction was made.
Okay.
Just so we can have it for the record that these things were addressed. And
right.
That sort of thing.
And that has not been completed.
Okay. But we still have a couple more items to look at as far as our committee. One was to get with the auditors and just kind of get a take on what their thoughts were on all this. And we were trying to get legislative audit to come out and perhaps talk about what they do. They do not come out and give presentations, we've discovered. So I've been trying to find out more about what they do. But it may be something we make a recommendation we try to utilize at some point in the future. So anyway, I'll ask later. In fact, I ran into John Kraft the other day, and he said he'd be available for that next meeting as far as him, and we could ask the mayor to invite him formally if he would like. But anyway, thought I'd bring all that up. But that was a decent, good report.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Scott.
Ms. Vega, thank you for doing that. I know it was a lot of work, and the books, when you came, were in abominable condition. So I congratulate you on bringing all of that up to date and on the fine report. What is your background as far as fraud detection?
So when I started my career, I worked for a law firm, and I did litigation support for some employee theft issues. And then when I started my own practice, they became a client, and I continued to do litigation support for them. I had a public accounting practice for 13 years, and I detected employee theft numerous times over that time period. I've seen a lot.
Okay. Did you find any evidence at all of any kind of fraud?
No, when I got here, those hairs were standing up on my neck, and I've looked hard. That doesn't mean that it's not there, but I have seen nothing to indicate that there has been any theft.
Did you find evidence of deliberate wrongdoing?
I did not.
Okay. What is the status of the 2016 audit?
Okay, so the 2016 audit, an audit is a really big undertaking, and given the book's shortfalls, that just extended the time for getting ready for the audit, because first, to start for an audit, you have to have all your bank recs done and 33 bank accounts and all the months that weren't done. That was a big undertaking. And then after you do that, you have to go through and reconcile within the accounts. And so, again, that takes a long time. Then the auditors have a list. They send you a packet of the schedules that they want for different reconciliations that you do, and it's very numerous. It's over 60 items. I don't know the exact number. And so then you start putting those together, and it takes a really long time. And where we stand right now is the field work has been completed. We're at writing the CAFR right now. I have completed all the schedules that go into the CAFR, and they are in the auditor's hands. They have to review it and bless it. We've agreed on all the numbers, so there's no changes in that. It's just putting the schedules together, all the different ways that are required to be done. So we're in the middle of tax season. I called the auditor today to, get an update on how things were going on their end, and she didn't call me back. She'll probably call me back in the morning because she's real good at calling back. But the process is I send over those schedules, then they review them and approve them, or send them back to me for more changes. And then once that's done, then we write the report. The royal we. I write the report, and so that's where we stand on that. The 2017 audit, we are underway. The schedules are being prepared. The 60-something schedules are being prepared. The reconciliations are happening. The auditors will be here, is it the 19th? April 19th, they will be here for 2 weeks, and we'll be ready for them. I do not anticipate the CAFR being written by then, but they can still do that field work. and not put us behind.
To your knowledge, has the city ever missed auditing a year?
No, I don't think so. Not that I've seen. In fact, I know not because I have all the audit reports in my office.
So we're just a little behind on the 2016, and the 2017 is imminent.
The 2016, we're a little bit behind. The 2017 is on schedule.
Okay. Good. That's all I've got. Thank you very much for your hard work.
Councilmember Holt.
Thank you for that briefing. You know, from what little bit I've been able to learn through our committee and everything about all this, it certainly was a very traumatic period of time. I don't want to make anything of. We can use her ideas or thoughts for what it's worth. It had its place. If we're to learn anything out of it at all, perhaps we should have a way to make sure that we update more often and have a controlled system to where we don't get that far out of place, because in a way our city was vulnerable during that period of time. And it seems to me, based on what I've understood, that with the auditors, our report it's going to be due. We're not going to get it until July. Is that right?
I don't think it's going to be that late, but I do not know when.
I believe we had at least passed over that word at some point in time that we thought it would be that late, which is much later than what the regulation says it's supposed to be, or whatever. It's just that I'm more interested in the fact that based on what it's taking to put all this back together again, and we have an understanding of what took place. That's where I am. I no offense to the lady and the previous auditor. Perhaps she did the best she could with what she thought she could do. But anyway, I'm concerned about a controlled system. I'm concerned about that we know more about it more frequently now than we did before. Not that no offense to anybody, I don't mean that to go anywhere. I just mean that that's where I'm concerned, that we were vulnerable, and I appreciate the work you're doing, and I know you have done everything but pull your hair out trying to get to the bottom of all this, and I appreciate your enduring patience and effort to get all this done, and I'm looking forward to hearing that final report. We really need to know that, so I appreciate your time. Thank you, Ms. Vega. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Mosley.
Yeah, just you said I was going to ask you about you said you're about ready to start the 2017. Has the 2016 audit been completed? Have they finished their field procedures?
The field work is complete. The schedules for the actual report are complete, but they have to review that. Okay, what they're reviewing is what's actually going into the report and all the different schedules.
Okay, so July, is that where we're seeing now? Last I'd heard was maybe April we'd hear from the auditors or something. But
I'm sure she'll call me back in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So really, this audit is probably a year late. Usually, we see John Kraft in July. Mm-hmm. So this created a lot of problems and a lot of work for you, and trying to go back and recreate and make that happen. So thank you for putting up with it.
You're welcome.
It was a big task, and I'm glad we've got the right personnel in place now, and human resources and that sort of thing to take that load off you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I've got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Williams.
Thank you, Ms. Vega. You mentioned something in your presentation about an email that you got from the previous finance director. Is that right? Did I hear that right?
It didn't come to me. It came to the city clerk.
Oh, okay. Okay. And in it, she said that these were her duties that...
She said that most of the things that she raised were the finance director's responsibility.
Okay.
I don't know if she used responsibility or duties, but that it came under the finance director.
Is there any way we could see that email?
Ms. Timmons?
The email that she's referring to, what the previous director said is that her original email, she alluded to there being potentially I think 51 more items. And so I had been calling and I emailed her, and when she responded, she said that she has no additional concerns, that all of her concerns were in the body of the original email.
Okay.
And yes, I'll be happy to provide a copy of her response.
Thank you.
Councilmember
I
Mosley.
think that email was dated May 29th.
That is correct.
So, okay, thank you.
I've shared the information with Councilmember Mosley as the chairman of the Oversight Committee.
Oh, it was shared to all council members, I think.
Well, you were the only person that asked for it.
Oh, is that right? Okay, that's quite interesting.
You weren't in attendance.
All right, thank you.
You were on the committee, so I
The-
guess only committee
The
members.
committee
got-
members that were present received a copy of her response, and the copy how the city aggressively went and asked the previous director what her concerns were, because we did take them very seriously, and we did address each and every item that she alleged.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no more questions, thank you, Ms. Vega.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is departmental reports, and we do those at the first meeting, and especially tonight since it's been a long meeting. Next item is procedural motion. I need a motion from the floor to read all resolutions and ordinances by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read all resolutions and ordinances by title only. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. First item is under unfinished business is the second reading of ordinance number 950 regarding a franchise agreement with MCI Metro. Ms. Timmons, if you read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 950, an ordinance authorizing MCI Metro, Access Transmission Services, Corporation DBA Verizon Access Transmission Services, its successors and assigns to construct, maintain, and operate communications network within the City of Maumelle, Arkansas, levying a franchise tax, providing for the payment thereof, describing the method of collection, and for other purposes.
Okay, this is on second reading, and it's about a communications company that wants to provide services to commercial accounts and to cell tower locations. And we have Mr. Brian Bennett in the office, in the meeting tonight.
Long day.
It's been long, yeah, to answer any questions. So do you want to speak, Mr. Bennett? Yeah, just tell them a little more about it, or?
Sure. I can just kind of reiterate summarize what we talked about last time I was here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for having us again, and thank you for entertaining our franchise agreement. What we're looking at doing, and we've furthered our design a little bit more since the last meeting, so I have a little bit more specific information, that might help you out with the decision. But what we're looking at doing is deploying a fiber optic network, like the mayor said, to reach mostly commercial customers, businesses, schools, government, that type of thing, and then also to reach existing Verizon Wireless, who is our sister company, cell towers. In the city of Maumelle today, within the city limits, there are currently 2 cell towers. One's over at the Country Club, and one's up at the top of the hill by the water tank off of Millwood. And so, of course, any future cell towers, we would look at reaching with this fiber optic network. And then, of course, any other providers that are on those cell towers, such as some of our competitors who may want to use our communication services, would be welcome to do so as well. But as far as the design goes, right now we are projecting approximately 8.5 miles, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. We still don't have a final design for Maumelle yet. Traversing through the city. Right now, as we have things built, everything is underground. There won't be any unsightly poles going up anywhere or anything like that. We should be 100% underground within the city of Maumelle, using only right-of-way. We will not encroach on private property at any time. We'll use the same right-of-way that your current providers use. So We'll try to be courteous to their services and equipment. I know some of the right-of-ways are pretty congested, especially coming down Maumelle Boulevard. As I was riding here today, there's more digging going on out there, so we will use every resource that we have accessibility to make sure that we do not encroach on any existing utilities, damage any existing services, because as you know, that comes out of our pocketbook when we do make mistakes like that. So it's in our best interest not to have that kind of situation come up. But, of course, now the 8.5 miles that I mentioned will obviously increase as we have business opportunities, as additional cell sites, schools, whoever, come to us for services, that distance will increase, and then hopefully we can create a nice web of a network here within the city of Maumelle.
Okay.
And at this time, I'm sorry, Mayor, at this time we do not plan for residential services. I think I said that last time, but just wanted to reiterate that. We're not coming in to serve households and that sort of thing.
Okay. I have one light on. Councilmember Scott?
I had a sleepless night last night, and I'm not picking on MCI because I was in the public utility for 25 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And I actually went out and negotiated franchise agreements with cities.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have a very congested right-of-way, and it's a finite resource. It's extremely competitive area now. I was just thinking about how many utilities are in our rights-of-way as we speak. We've got water, sewer, gas, electric, AT&T copper, AT&T fiber, Fidelity, Comcast, and now MCI. And Comcast, I think when they came before us, they were actually pretty much expressing through, except they said that they wanted to pick up business customers as well. Well, the city doesn't make 10 cents on this unless customers are hooked up to that service. So you see that when you do residential customers, it actually generates revenue from the city, for the city. If customers are not generated as a part of your service, if it is just to sell towers and to express through, then this finite resource is being spent at a potential cost to the city. Because the more congested our rights-of-way become, the more likely it is that if the city's out doing drainage work or culvert work or something like that, and we nick a cable, then it's our pocketbook.
Right.
Because we would be charged for that, and it's not cheap. I mean, if you have to call out a crew at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and they have to work through the night to restore service, you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's very important to us to understand what is happening under that ground. And as you saw along the boulevard, there is just tons of stuff going on there. So I would like to really understand how aggressive you're going to be toward trying to acquire business customers, because that's the only way we're going to make money.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what's your plan? And where are the electronics going to be and that kind of thing?
First off, I'm just a network engineer. I'm not on the sales side. So, my job is to get the fiber in the ground, design the network, make sure it makes a little bit of sense. Our sales team will aggressively attack the area, trying to reach schools, trying to reach businesses. One of the services that we're looking to roll out are data and internet services at low-cost options. Of course, they're fiber-fed internet services. So, we can provide outstanding speeds at a lower cost, and that's one of the initiatives, because a lot of times when companies come in with these data packages and all this stuff, they'll provide you, almost what they consider infinite speed, but for a very high cost. And we see this in, as you go home and if you have residential cable, you see that your internet and your cable, the more they provide, the higher the pocketbook goes. But, MCI or Verizon, MCI are going to try to offset that by offering some low-cost data solutions as part of our big bundle. Now, we will also offer high-price data solutions, where applicable. But another option that we can also utilize with this is, when we reach out to larger businesses, we can do in-building applications, which actually utilizes both the wireline and the wireless side. It's like a internal, like you see in hospitals, the antennas that, are located all within the ceiling of the hospitals and in places like that. We can offer in-building services to businesses that will improve their wireless service. So that's another opportunity that we have within there. Warehouses love those things because most warehouses are built of metal, and metal is an RF shield. And so usually when you walk into a metal building, like when my daughters go to practice at Play Ball off of Counts Massey, and there's a cell tower that's a Verizon tower right there off of Counts Massey. I walk into Play Ball, my phone has 1 bar because that building is an RF shield. So there will be a lot of opportunities for in-building applications, as well as what I mentioned with the low-cost fiber application for data services. Of course, in addition to the cell towers that that we want to cover as well.
One of the things I was thinking about during my sleepless night was not necessarily in this application, because it does sound like you're going to target businesses, but the last applicant who came through, it sounded like they were just going to express through, pretty much.
Okay.
And what I would like to entertain, just as food for thought, is that rather than going according to our normal franchise agreements, that we look at a placement cost upfront revenue for the city, like a cost per foot or cost per mile or something like that, that is fronted by the company using these very finite rights of way. Then as businesses materialize and those businesses begin to generate revenue for you, then we would forgive the franchise fee and continue to subtract it from the upfront cost until we reached parity, and then we would begin to collect the franchise fees as usual, so that a company who really, truly is just expressing through the community is paying for the use of this resource that is very limited. So I just want the council to think about that. And I think in your case, I believe you. I think you're going to try to go after those customers.
We hope so.
And I'm thinking that the last company that came through, I will be very surprised if I see commercial customers on that network.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilmember Mosley?
Thank you for your perspective on that. You were with a telephone company, is that correct?
I was you.
It does seem, I don't know a whole lot about that and the right-of-ways, and it's kind of nice to have a perspective on the council that perhaps does. I do know that anytime I see the digging machines come into my neighborhood, I'm going to get calls from neighbors with,
Sure.
They're going to have whacked something. And I even experienced that myself last time they were in front of my house. The subcontractor that was hired to dig a hole, he aimed straight at my electrical box, and bingo, he severed my line. And it happens. I don't think anybody really knows what's under there. They just kind of go away. There's some
Right.
probabilities involved. And but anyway, I know that there's a need to provide an even playing field for all the people that do want to compete and do these types of things. So that's what we need to do as far as picking on any one. But it's good food for thought. Thank you.
Mr. Mosley, if I can help ease your mind a little bit on the construction side of it, there's a couple things that we do when we place the fiber to try to avoid incidents. Of course, we always use the one-call services, but as you mentioned, sometimes one call doesn't catch everything. There's stuff underground that has no ability to be traced because it's, old and it's just not there. One of the things that we do when we place our cable, we use a company called TraceSafe. And basically what we do is we run a metal trace wire all the way through the conduit from one end to the other, and we have a technician that can hook on one end, hook on the other end, and run something similar to a metal detector across that current that's in that cable, and then that's how they mark. And that's what most utilities use. This is not just just unique to us. But we will utilize that in order to help utility location services find our cable to help try and avoid any incidents with our cable. Secondly, one of the things about going buried and with the technology now that's out there with directional boring is we can go pretty deep. Right now, Verizon's standard, MCI standard minimum, we will not bury cable less than 36 inches to the surface of the ground. We're going to be at least 3 feet underground, if not more. So we have the ability with the directional boring to go underneath everybody else. Our regulations require 12 inches of separation between our cable and be it water, electricity, whoever else may be around. We have to be 12 inches all the way around. So if we go over the top of them, we got to be 12 inches. If we go to the side of them, diagonal, whatever, has to be 12 inches from anybody. So we can't just squeeze in a 6-inch space in between two, existing utilities. So, if we reach a situation where it looks clogged, we'll try to go down. We'll try to go even further underground, and it'll be, of course, the further you go, the more it costs. So it will be at our expense to avoid those cables, but at the same time, it provides us a level of safety for our cables, also for the existing utility providers.
Councilmember Apperzan?
Your knowledge, wisdom, background, and experience, I would absolutely love to see you put something together, an amendment to this. This is limited resource, and you and I know that technology is advancing so rapidly that we are going to be facing this for the rest of our lives. People are going to want to use our ground, and if we don't hold value to it, then we will be taken. And whether it's a per foot, per however we do it, then offering a 50% discount until parity is reached. I like that. But just a thought, I would love to see what your background comes up with, because it's a great idea.
Well, the problem is we just approved several others, and
No.
so
Yeah, I thought about
it's
that too.
it's a level playing
I
field. So
understand that. That's why I told her she could do it. So she's a mom, and they figure stuff out. They get sticky stuff out of hair and all that. But there needs to be something. And I don't know how it would be done, but your point is so well taken. Thank you for that.
there's not any other questions, this item will be on third reading at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Vote yes.
Oh, no, sir, that's fine.
No
Thank you.
guarantees.
We're getting paid overtime, so it's fine.
Yes, sir, you may be excused, yes, sir. All right, moving on to new business, we have resolution number 2018-09, amending the 2018 general fund budget. Ms. Timmons, if you read that by title only.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, Pulaski County, Arkansas, resolution number 2018-09, a resolution to amend the 2017 street budget.
That shouldn't be the street fund budget.
Sure shouldn't.
That's general fund. So it should read general fund, but it also should read 2018. The issue here is, this is a budget resolution, and Councilmember Mosley pointed out the last time that if there was a difficult issue, well, it wasn't difficult that I remember. We do these on like kind of a reading and then give you time to think about them on budget items. So, but I'll bring Ms. Vega up in just a second, but basically this is something we have to do 3 years after a bond issue is issued. Okay, I don't remember that every time. So we have to contract with an accounting firm to do a rebatable arbitrage calculation, basically, and it's to determine if the interest rates and everything that we've accumulated reach a certain level, then we have to rebate some of that interest back to the bondholders, I believe. And Ms. Vega, if you want to help me on this, but that's as I understand it. And this is not with Kraft and Veatch. This is with Thomas and Thomas, and it's required as a part of our bond issuance. The last time we did one of these was in 2015 for the 2012 bond issue. And so when we got ready to do the budget this past year for 2018, I didn't think about we needed to do a bond arbitrage, because it'd been 3 years since, or 2 years since we'd done the last one. So it was not included in the budget when we put it forth. So that's just, there's no, well, I guess it's an oversight, but it's just that I didn't think about it when we were putting the budget together. That's the main thing.
You're supposed to answer this and fill in all the questions.
Oh, am I? All right. Well, but Miss Vega was contacted, and then it was like, she was like, all right, we got contacted, and where's this at in the budget? And we said, it's not in the budget. So that's why we brought it forward.
Yeah, this is also, it's required for the treasury, due to the treasury regulations, and there's also an IRS reporting function in it. And the report is due in 2019. So this is starting that process. And the estimate that they gave me was 9,000 to 10,000, and I seriously doubt it's going to be 9.
And we included the contract. Ms. Timmons included the contract that we had in 2015. So, and we had to do exactly the same thing because I remember getting questioned on it in 2015. So I should have remembered, but I didn't.
Yeah, and these are the 2015 bonds. These aren't the 2012 bonds.
Yes, the 2015 bonds, but you do it 3 years after the issuance of the bond. And if the council chooses to approve this, we do have to have a motion to change the title, and we probably need to do it even if we move that to next meeting also. So, Councilmember Mosley?
Okay, so the amount of this is 10,000. I looked at the 42 and was going, my goodness. But so it's 10,000. Now, is this some type of a, the contract and everything kind of reads estimates and initial and that sort of thing. Is this just the first of maybe many payments on this for these folks to do such services?
Well, if you look, you look in the back. Or the third paragraph down, it says at this time our estimate is $6,000 to $10,000, and so I guess these were recurring. Then it had dates of 2019, 2024, 2025, and 2030. So I'm not sure on that exactly, but the conversations I understood it that Ms. Vega had the other day is they told them it'd be $9,000 to $10,000 to do this calculation. Now, it's also the 2012 bond issue was less than $18 million. It was about $12 million if my numbers are correct. 3, about 14, I think. And so, and then this one is now $18 million. So I don't know if it's based on the cost of the bond issue, that the price that they're charging the fee on, or if there's the same amount of work, whether it's $2 million or whether it's $20 million.
Have we done this before?
This is the first one.
Well, this is the first one for 2015.
What about the 2012?
We did it in 2015 for 2012.
Oh, we did. Okay.
Yes, yes.
I don't remember any of this. So but this is not a new thing. This isn't just a new requirement.
No, it's not a new requirement. No, sir. We did it in 2015 for the 2012 bond issue.
All right, and that was probably 10,000 or less.
Well, it was, yeah, and we didn't pull the resolution, but I think we did a budget resolution, but we could pull that.
That's
but,
all right. That's
yeah.
all right. Okay, so this was the 2015 thing, and let's see, okay. All right, I think I've got a better understanding here. I was pretty clueless when I first read this. I was kind of looking for a memo or something here, but I think I'm probably good with it. I wouldn't try to hold your feet to the fire to stretch it out to 2 meetings, but it's up to what everybody else thinks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I do need a motion to amend the title if we're going to make a motion to approve, if there's going to be a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion to amend the title to read 2018 General Fund Budget. Is there anywhere else we need to amend it? Mr. City Attorney, I don't see. Okay. And then also down above the funds themselves, it needs to, where it says amend the street fund budget, it says, that needs to say general fund, right above the boxes with the dollars on it. So, is that your motion, Mr. Anderson?
Yes, sir.
That's my second.
Okay, all right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve or amend the title of the resolution 2018-09.
I don't have a question.
Okay, all right. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. And now, if you enter, Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a motion to accept Resolution 2018-09.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2018-09. Is there any discussion on that motion? Councilmember Holt?
Just a brief question, Mr. Mayor, about between the 9 and 10,000. We're guesstimating that for the moment. Am I understanding that correctly? So if it comes out to something much more, will we come back and look at it again, or are we just open-ended to whatever it is?
No, we cannot spend more than $10,000 for this. So if it comes in a lot more than that, it would have to come back to the council.
Okay.
The estimate came from Thomas & Thomas that it would be between $9,000 and $10,000.
Right.
So I don't think it's going to go over the $10,000 amount.
Okay, very good. I appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, do we need to reread the motion? No? Okay, all right. All right. You got it? All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2018-09. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. All right, moving on to mayor's comments. I'll be very brief, or try to be. I hope I can be that. Everybody's aware that we had a special election last Tuesday in the city on March the 13th. 2 of the 3 initiatives passed. The public safety tax passed by 159 votes. The interchange project passed by 18 votes, and the sewer project in North Maumelle failed by 104 votes. But that means that both taxes will go into effect. So the public safety tax was the half-cent permanent tax, and the interchange tax was the half-cent temporary tax. And so both of those sales tax will go into effect. The election results have not been certified yet. They will not be certified until March the 26th. There are actually, and I've gotten 2 different numbers, but there's 20 absentee ballots still out. Those have 10 days to come in. They have to be postmarked or at least executed by the date of the election. They give an exception for military personnel on that, whether it's postmarked or just it has to be executed. And then there's either 5 or 10 provisional ballots. So there is a possibility that if there was some craziness happen, that all 20 absentees or 10 of the provisionals and 10 of the absentees were no votes, that the interchange could possibly fail on that number. But we'll know on March the 26th after that's done. And then after that, we'll have to do a proclamation and certify it to the Department of Finance and Administration. But we can't do anything until we have a election that's certified by the Election Commission. Councilmember Scott, did you have a comment on that?
Yes, sir, I did. Assuming that the public safety tax passes, remains passed at 159 positive votes, I just want to be a farmer and plant a seed tonight. We are going to be collecting about $400,000 more a year than we did on the community service fee. And even though we know that that dollar amount is moot as it pertains to the entire size of the police and fire budgets, I would like for us to think about setting some of that additional money aside to bring our public safety personnel up to closer to parity with others. So when the time comes, we'll be thinking about that, please.
Okay. All right. Thank you. The only other thing, and it ties in with the special election, the Federal Highway Administration signed our FONSI on Friday. On Friday, March the 15th, 16th, March the 16th. So they signed it. You're asking me what's a FONSI? It's that guy on Happy Days, right? Yeah. No. A FONSI is a finding of no significant impact, is what it is. And so there's the document. It says Federal Highway Administration finding of no significant impact, I-40 interchange, Maumelle F, FAP number HPP2 37451, HPP2 15691, RDOT job number 061190, Pulaski County, Arkansas. So that's the last environmental hurdle that we had to get through. We knew it was pending and knew it was going to be done. We just didn't know the exact date it was going to occur, but they signed it on the 14th of March. So that is done. So that's just one more hurdle on the interchange project to keep us on target to get, hopefully, that thing bid out by the end of the year. And then quickly, I went to the National League of Cities last week. I was the only elected official from Maumelle that went, but we did have 6 students from our Maumelle Youth Council that were there, and we had 2 chaperones and had a great meeting. Actually, it was one of the best ones I've attended in a long time. Not only with the youth, it was a smaller youth group, so we actually had a lot of one-on-one time one night and everything, and had a lot of discussions about their dreams and goals and all that, but also met with Senator Bozeman and Congressman Hill while I was up there. And then we also heard from some really astounding speakers, including Senator Cory Booker from Newark, New Jersey, and Mr. Tim Scott from South Carolina, both senators, and both were very dynamic. Tom Donahue was the president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He was very good. And then we heard from Ben Carson and Alexander Acosta, who are secretaries and directors of various federal agencies. And we also heard from Bob Schieffer, who was the host of Face the Nation for years. Very eloquent speaker and told some really great stories. All the way back to Lyndon Johnson stories. Now, he wasn't a reporter then. He met Lyndon Johnson as a kid, and that's kind of what drove him into politics. But he has interviewed every president since Richard Nixon. So very good. I thought it was very well. Planning Commission report, that will be done after the Planning Commission meeting, which is this Thursday. And then do we have any council members' comments? Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a kind of a brief Planning Commission update. I attended the subcommittee meeting about a week ago, and I think their regular meeting's actually this Thursday, and they have a very heavy docket. I'm not going to be able to make the formal meeting here this Thursday, and I'll watch it on video so I can give you a report, but there may be 2 things coming to the council before I'm able to give you a report here, and I wanted to mention those. They actually addressed some preliminary plats, site plan, landscape for National Convenience Solutions. I think that's a warehouse facility in the industrial area. Another one is the Stericycle and Nabisco branch warehouse, proposed landscape plan, site plan, and then a preliminary plat for Panther Mountain. All those things will stay with the Planning Commission. There are 2 items here pertaining to the villa at River Point Apartments. One is to request to amend the master street land plan and from single-family detached to special use residential, and then also to change the zoning from R1 to PRD, which would allow high-density housing. Both those items, if they should pass, we will be faced with those items probably at the next council meeting. And that is down there by I try to keep calling it the Highboy Restaurant, but it's changed owners several times. Grandpa's now. That's kind of an interesting area that is part of Maumelle. So anyway, I thought I'd just mention all those items beforehand and see you at the next council meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Vapurzian?
I'd spoken with Mayor earlier about the money we appropriated last year for the looking into the roundabout situation. We appropriated $50,000, and that time has come and gone. No contracts were signed, so no money was used. So I kind of resurrected it, and he is getting an RFQ to find out exactly the cost of engineering and everything. So once he gets that, it will come before us again to do the same thing, but it won't be a $50,000 number per se. It will be the exact number that we know is going to take to get that engineered and the plans written up for that. So I just wanted to make you known of that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I didn't realize that had kind of fallen off the board there. That's one of my favorite projects. I'm scared to death somebody's going to die at that intersection.
Well, as we discussed, some people don't like them because they do slow you down, and some people struggle with knowing how to work around about it. It's a little bit of common sense, but if there is an accident there, it's not going to be a T-bone.
No.
It's not going to be a rollover. It's going to be a glancing blow or a rear end because somebody doesn't know exactly how to maneuver that. But whatever accidents generally happen in roundabouts, I think, Chief, would probably be much safer than people crossing intersections there. I say I think. I look at you, and I hope I'm right.
That's the theory,
absolutely. Thank you. The theory of that. So,
I did have one more Alderman comment.
Okay, all right.
I was thinking about calling Kraft or asking you to invite him, whichever you would prefer, for maybe the week after this to see if he could meet with us for a few minutes. He had said he was, he could make some time available, but it will depend on what his schedule is. But would you all as members be available, you think, maybe Monday?
What would the reason be?
We would look at, it's still part of our oversight thing. One of the things on our deal was to just also question the auditors, what their take was on the letter and that sort of thing.
I think that's the purpose of the oversight committee, is to bring their findings to us. So unless you want to turn this into an oversight committee, which is everybody's.
No, it would be an oversight committee function is what I'm asking. I'm just asking these folks if they had a clear schedule to have an oversight.
Our meetings have been going longer and longer and longer and longer because we've been bringing everybody and their brother in.
I wasn't going to bring it up here at council.
Yeah. If you want to have him at your meeting, have him.
All right.
He's a dear friend, but
we love it.
I don't want to hear him speak for 30 more minutes.
I'm done. You guys might be available?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Give me a date that you're going to be available, yes. So.
I was thinking Monday or Tuesday of this following week.
Of next week?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So, but I'm just going to call Mr. Kraft, and I haven't talked to him about it to see if he's available yet. I'm just kind of asking our availability.
I may see him tomorrow at noon.
All right.
I don't know. I can ask him and see if he's available next Monday or Tuesday. I know that they're doing income tax returns, so that'd be the biggest issue is if he's free. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So you're looking for the 26th or the 27th, you think?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. All right.
Time?
6 p.m., I'm sure, right?
Probably.
Okay. Now, he said he wants to ask him about that memo. He said what he wanted to ask him.
Just ask.
And Mr. Kraft's seen that memo.
That was part.
Yeah, he has seen it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's aware of it. I had a conversation with him about 3 weeks ago. I ran into him and he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "I'd be happy to come in front and visit about it, no problem." So anyway, I think it's certainly something that would be part of our process. And, I don't think we've encountered anything shocking at this point. So,
What's the plan? What's the long-term plan for the oversight committee? How much longer do you plan on keeping it going? Like, because once the playground's built, he's done.
Right.
How many answers are you looking to have answered? Because were they answered tonight, or you're not satisfied yet?
Well, it's sort of like our special prosecutor.
Yeah,
it just sort of runs on until we find out
say.
that we.
Till we say we're done.
Well, no, I didn't know if you were going to keep looking for other CPAs to talk to about it until you were.
No,
I don't know. Is there an end result?
Now, this was part of our original scope. We were going to visit with Ms. Vega, and we've pretty much concluded our conversations with her. we're going to touch base with the auditors, see what their general thoughts were. Perhaps look into the legislative audit aspects for future audits, and then at that point we'll probably kind of wrap it up.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council members' comments? Mr. Norris?
Yes, it has come to my attention that I have not formally announced that my wife and I are expecting a little baby boy in June, and so I mentioned that to someone and they were surprised, and then I realized I hadn't announced. There you go, yes. On a lighter note, and that is all. Thank you.
Just one?
Just one. We have one. Just one, not twins.
Ms. Timmons?
No.
Okay, all right. If there's no other business for coming before the council, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I hear it? Second? All those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Any opposed, say no. Meeting is adjourned.